take out all of the hazardous waste and to make the site seismically fit. There's a lot of shoring and bracing that needs to happen. In terms of whether we will keep the existing structures and just seismically retrofit and renovate them, or whether we will tear them down and replace them with new structures, as I said, we haven't hired architects, we haven't hired seismic engineers, we haven't hired a project team. We've had informal consultations with all of the above and have an idea, but we don't know. We're prepared to do whatever we need to make it a safe and fabulous site.
Okay, so that's good to hear, because our concern, the neighborhood's concern is if this project moves forward with Calgary, that what is built there is an appropriate scale for the neighborhood, and that the neighborhood's concerns are addressed. Many of us lived there when Adams, with far fewer students than Calgary is proposing, was there, and we had lots of traffic and trash and all sorts of problems, and we would, if the project moves forward, then we would want to see this become an asset to the community, not detriment. And so I would also, along those lines, like to suggest that in terms of public involvement, that you not wait until it's time to circulate the environmental document for comment, but that you involve the public earlier on so that the public is and feels embraced by the school, and we've developed more of a partnership.
We absolutely agree with you.
Hello. Nice to be on with you. We never get to meet. What I would like to do is meet in those closed-door meetings that happened with the school board that Bruce Harder was in. Whoa, where'd he go? Oh. Oh no. Oh, he disappeared. And he just took his gold parachute and left. All right. All right. So I'm a parent at Mar Vista. My girls are in Girl Scouts with all kids from Calvert. So I have a great sense of like how great the community is in Calvert. Here's my question. If you've got $20 million to blow, why aren't you fixing Valley View? Or Steve? Or the existing schools? Just do that money. You start a school. Every time you start a school, and I understand you're going to throw all this money on the front end, but once you open up, once you open up, it's going to be a district expense to run this school. And the district doesn't even have enough money to have art classes, to have music classes. The PTA does all that. The PTA, sports. We have a garden committee that goes out every year and gets their own money so that they can exist. So the district doesn't, we don't have a school nurse. So if there's money floating around, can we just have it in the schools that need it, rather than starting new ones? I understand why you guys started with the school. P.S. If your intent is to serve a community, and that these are underserved children who are going to your schools, how are they going to get up the hill? All their parents have cars? All their parents can take the time in the morning to drive them up? No. P.S. Since you didn't look at the map, you don't know we're unincorporated. We can't even get the police to sit outside our parking lot to make sure people don't run over our kids. We gotta have volunteers do that too. So you don't have anything. You might get the sheriff. You don't have the police. You don't have anybody to back you up. There's much less infrastructure up here for 1,200 kids, which P.S. is 50% more than ever were in that building before. That's my question. Why, if you've got all this free money, why are you not putting it in the great schools that we have?
So this is just a little like, I just wanted to make a point with regards to that comment. And the district is not putting in any dollars into improving the site. The contractor board does.
No, that's exactly what I said. I understand the district doesn't put the money in, but once the school is running, it's going to be another school in the district. Right. The teachers are going to need to be paid by the district.
No, by the state.
And so the teachers will be paid through the caliber organization. So that
not sure I quite understand your question. So just to be clear, so Caliber Beta Academy is a public school. It's non-selective. It's non-selective. All charter schools are public schools. We're a not-for-profit. Anyone who wants to can apply and go. We are. So Caliber's primary source of funding is exactly the same as the district. It's from the state and federal government. Well, it's not from the district. It's from the state and federal government. So I'm not sure what your point is. In terms of
District resources, and once you're done building, that money has to stretch further in every school.
I think it's the opposite. The district has an obligation to provide us with a facility, and we are going to pay for that instead of the district paying for it. We're a public school. We're a free school. We're not selective. We're not profit. Anyone
So I
in the
have a
community can
question.
apply.
Are your teachers in a union?
All of our teachers are certified.
Why are you afraid to have your teachers in a union?
Hello.
Hello, everybody. My name is Mel Cuevas. I'm one of your school board members, and I'm actually brave enough to get up and answer your questions. I can't take it. I'm sorry. There's just so much misinformation. I'm going to tell you what I know. One, I know for a fact that there is public education funded by the state. It comes in two ways. It's either a traditional district school or it's a charter school. It's all funded by California public dollars. Okay, we have our hands tied in the sense that the state law says we must provide comparable facilities to charter schools, whether we authorize them or not. Caliber was not authorized by our district, but we are still held to that law. Now, as far as does the money gets mixed up, no, because districts get their own LCAP, LCFF dollars they gotta fill out. Charters do their own LCAPs. Every charter in the state does its own LCAP. Those dollars never get mixed. Okay, that's the state level. That's the state level. We are responding to what the state tells us. Now, you might not agree, I might not agree. That's a conversation with Mr. Thurman, okay? Bottom line, I'm just here to implement what the state tells me and do it in a fair and equitable way. Our hands are tied. Yes, I'd love to give them Valley View. I'd love to give them any option you say. It's not possible. Because Valley View then has to go be empty for it to be an option. This is an empty school. That's the only reason why. If not, that was not presented as an option. This is all that was presented as an option. 2 schools. So here's the deal. I am telling you that's what was presented to me. You can choose for yourself whether you want to support this option or not. I will always tell you what I know based on those conversations. I have no reason to mislead. I just want to solve a problem. The problem is we have a school that whether we put them there at Adams or not, we have to find a place for it. And it's not because I want it, not because you want it. I don't have to.
They can disappear.
No.
They can disappear.
Okay, they poof, they're gone, right? No, they're still here.
We don't want
Okay, so the point is that's a state issue. I can hook you up with whoever you want to work with at the state level if you think that's something you want to work on.
Hello, I can tell that this is a broader, issue, and we're going to be fighting this for decades. I'm a 30-year veteran, and I volunteered to work as a mentor teacher at Steech School, and I was horrified at what I saw. That your school went into Steech without any buy-in from any staff, with any approval from any of the staff. You took over their yard, and this is what happened. I was in a classroom with all English learners, behavior problems, and illiterate kids who were really just lost. And it was a first-year teacher, and it was the most the most dysfunctional classroom I've ever been in. So you siphoned off the higher testing kids, the kids whose parents could be involved, and what was left was that. What do you see as a long-term paradigm of what's going to happen to our schools if this continues?
Thank you. I just want to make sure I heard you correctly. Do you want to continue?
One of the kids came up to me and said, I want to go to the smart school. I don't want to be in the stupid school.
So just trying to make sure I heard what you say. You're saying that you were a teacher at Stige and you felt that Caliber was creaming the best Stige kids are? Sorry, you were volunteering? And so I'm not sure what your question is.
My question is, what do you see is going to happen to our public schools if you siphon off the kids who hire tests, who are the testing, who test higher, whose parents are willing to be involved? What we're left with in the schools are special ed kids, English language learners, and disruptive kids, all of which you would never take.
So I think there's a lot of mythology around charter schools and creaming. And, you know, if anything, we reverse cream. Our demographics are, if anything, more or our prior attainment is, if anything, more challenging. You know, we're fully inclusive in terms of special ed. I think Ashley told you that our IEP population, our SPED population, is slightly higher than the district. I think if you look at our prior attainment or who is in our district, I think we are serving disadvantaged students and advantaged students. We're a diverse community. We certainly don't believe we're creaming. We have a blind lottery. Anyone who wants to apply can apply. And as I said, admission is non-selective. It's a third party that administers it. We have nothing to do with who comes, and we take on all comers, regardless of who they are, rich, poor, race, SPED, etc.
Not to you had the school site for your school. Would you sue the district?
The district has a legal obligation to provide us with a reasonably equivalent facility, and the
Would
district
you
has told
answer the
us-
question? If they do not give you the school, would you sue the district? Is that your plan?
You know, the district has told me that they're going to comply with their obligations under Prop 39, and we believe they will.
What about why you can't put that money into the existing schools? I
So,
really want to answer that.
I'm not sure what money you're talking about.
You got $4 million to raise the base, and you keep quoting
So
20
we
million.
can go into whatever detail you want, either in a large form or not, in terms of how we're going to fund this, and where the
No,
$20
that's
million.
not my
You want to
question.
know where the $20 million is going to come from?
No, I already know where you get your money. I want to know why you can't put that money into the existing schools in such desperate need. Stige needs that money. Valley View needs that money. Those are existing schools that have communities that you're tearing apart.
Why are you trying to role
Okay.
play where you're not wanted?
All right, I'm John Sargent. I live a couple blocks up here in Arlington. After 1959, I went to 5th and 6th grade in this building. I went to Adams. The first year it was open. I have a financial question and one other question. Did I read correctly that this is for the school district, that the school district is going to sell this property for $60,000?
Exactly. Yeah. Really? That's going to
What is the school district selling the Adams property for?
So this is a question for the district. And so the agreement is, if the board does enter into the agreement, it's will be less than fair market value. The $60,000 does represent what it potentially would be in dollars. However, what it represents to us is that it waives our responsibility to provide facilities to them. So with the legally required obligation that the district has, we would, if we did not come to an agreement on this site, we potentially would have to provide them with a
these years, I know that that property is worth millions of dollars. Why are the school districts selling property, taking that money and investing it into the infrastructure that's already here? And I can tell you, a lot of us, I'll just say, we have a lot of problems with kids going to the school there. And what they do to the neighborhood, they do to the homes, and so on. And I don't think, even though they're going to be younger, that the neighborhood up here is ready to go back to that situation. So it seems to me that this is not a financial wise investment at all.
How will families that don't have cars get to the school? My calculation is that the closest AC transit stop is 0.7 miles. It's over here, Barrett and Tulare, or down on San Pablo. So how will families that don't have vehicles get to the school?
I'd just say, first of all, most of our families right now come from a lot farther away from our school than just right around the block, and most of them drive. So I just want to correct them if there's a misperception about that. In terms of how people will get there, frankly, I think there's a number of options, but the reality is we don't know yet because we're still going through the planning process. And we'll be going and talking to the county planning department about the site and about traffic impact and all of the sorts of things that I mentioned earlier. So I don't have an answer to that right now.
This question is probably answered, but I don't understand why you guys are putting a K-3 charter school right next to K-3 middle school.
So we have a K-8 school. It's operating in 36 portables on the edge of the Kennedy campus. You're all welcome to come and visit. We have 600 families. Next year we're going to have 800. We're oversubscribed, as we mentioned. And we need a permanent home. And as Dr. Harder and Ms. LeBlanc have said, the district has a legal obligation to provide us with a permanent home. The Adams facility is vacant. It's been vacant and derelict since 2009. It would make a fabulous home for our students. Even if everyone in Mira Vista wanted to come to Caliber, we're oversubscribed. If everyone in Caliber wanted to come to Mira Vista, you're full as well. So I don't really see the conflict that you're describing.
I'm Liz Block, and I'm also a school board member, and I know a lot of people think I'm pro-charter and against kids, which is so, and I keep hearing people say Trump, and I'm thinking, gosh, you sound like Trump. Just one word, but I'm up here to apologize. I'm up here to apologize on behalf of the district, because I feel like the district has done a really poor job of informing parents about the situations with charter schools. And what I'm hearing are a lot of really good points that are about things that are inaccurate, but nevertheless excellent points. Like, we can't just sell atoms for fair market value. School districts can't do that with property. But that's a very good question, because if we could sell it at fair market value, $60,000 would be ridiculous. We know what stuff is selling for in our neighborhoods. And this meeting was held at Mira Vista, but Caliber has never wanted to take anything away from Mira Vista School. And I don't know why you're laughing. I just don't know why you have that response.
President 3 years ago. Who were they?
I feel so let down by the people of El Cerrito, who I thought were reasonable people. I live 2 blocks from here. I didn't know the difference. You know, you are not irrational. You know, this is a gentleman who just wants to help kids get a better life. And you're laughing. Question out here.
I live at the back door of our house, almost literally. And I also have a big public school teacher of 20 some odd years. I don't really want to be here to debate charter schools. I'm a public school teacher, so it should be obvious that I have a negative attitude about charter schools. So the things that have been said about them, I get it. But I think as a neighbor, as a really close neighbor, my biggest question is, are you going to be, because it seems to be a done deal.
Yeah.
It was a done deal when, a few years ago, our state voted for this stuff. So when people say why, it's because there are some people in the state who voted for it, it's a done deal, so we have to deal with it somehow, rather than yell and scream and bark. If it is a done deal, and I can live with that on some level, my question is what kind of neighbors you're going to be. For instance, when it's being built, and you mentioned, getting rid of the toxic stuff. Well, I live right there, so the toxic stuff will be sweeping over my house. I would like to, assurances that that won't happen. When it's built, I would like assurances about the footprint of what you're building. Quality of life issues, all those kinds of things. When Adams was there, my partner was one of the neighbors who works from home, so he was there monitoring, the kids as they came to school and left. It's not his job. But the school district did not do that. We made plenty of calls to Dr. Carter, who was absolutely useless. I know, surprise, sorry. And we want assurances that you will not be those kinds of neighbors. We also want to know, there was a question back there about communication. I think that is also key. We got that little thing in the mail just recently. We need that kind of stuff. We don't, well, that's my point. That some of us did and some of us didn't. That's what we want from you, is assurances that, construction, once it's done, are you going to be good neighbors? Are you going to be, accountability? Can we call you when the kid has, graffitied my car or my fence, and you're not going to tell me, so what, or whatever, they're kids. Yeah, I know they're kids. I work with, 130 of them every day. But that doesn't excuse, am I?
Yeah, look, I agree. And I will tell you, obviously, we've gotten off on a bad start here. So you're not going to believe me when I say this. You're only going to find out over time. But I will offer one thing that you can hang your hat on. We are a much smaller, much more easy to communicate organization than a larger school district. And I'm not pointing fingers at this school district. They've got a different challenge. It's a much larger organization. They've got a lot more on their plate. But we will look and feel very different than the school district when it comes to those sorts of things. And I will say again, I think we've gotten off on a bad foot in terms of communication. I think we should try and figure out what's the best mechanism. If you want to set up an email list where we email regular updates, if you want to have a bulletin board that you can come by and see whenever you want, if you want to be able to call the campus and talk to staff, we're up for all of that. I will say that one of the other things that we do at Caliber that's very different from a district environment, we who work on the sort of district side of things, the back office side of things, we work at the school. We're not 100 miles away or 10 miles away or even 5 miles away. We're literally at the school every day. So I will say yes, you can believe me or not, you will find out over time, but yes, we do understand that and we care a lot about it.
The other thing I'd say is we take behavior and social and emotional learning very seriously, and it's a pillar of our education and we think critically important for our kids. I will will say we've been in operation for 2 years. We have not had a graffitiing or a keying or any other neighborhood incident in those 2 years, either on the Stige site or the Kennedy site, and we hope that would continue. And I assure you, if you informed us that one of our kids was misbehaving, now a lot of our kids are not going to be middle schoolers and won't be unchaperoned off the campus, but we would take it very seriously.
And I would also just add that as far as, morning drop-off and afternoon pickup, our staff is out completely enforcing that at our current location. I'm 2 blocks down the street, making sure that traffic is flowing and that we're not congesting the community. So we will do the environmental impact study, and I'll be in all of those meetings so that I can make sure I know where our staff should be to make sure we're having as little impact on the community as possible as far as traffic and that sort of thing.
Hi, so I have a specific question, but first of all, I'd like to make, an observation, because I think what's really tweaking people here is that you've got this odd combination of public and private. You're running a business, but you're using public money, public assets to run your business, and you're getting into the public sphere. So, let me finish my comment, please.
Let her finish.
So, for example, you're buying a piece of property for an incredibly low price. That's public property, but yet you buy it. So now who holds title to that property? Everybody's going, well, are you going to go bankrupt? I don't even know if we're going to go bankrupt. You're a business. But you're holding title now to what was formerly a public property, and you bought it for dirt cheap. So you can't expect people to be happy about that. Okay, so that's my observation. And on and on and on, there's this crazy mix of public and private that seems to be benefiting your business. So that's not our definition of fair business practice, okay? There's public and there's private, and there's different rules, but they're mixing so that it comes out to your advantage and to the disadvantage of the public schools that are struggling. My question for you is, where exactly are you along in terms of your talking to and negotiating with the city of Richmond? Have you talked to the planning department? Have you talked to the mayor? I'd like to know who you've talked to and where you are in terms of any kinds of dealings you have. It's all at the county level. But if you're going to do planning, then whose planning department do you go through? You have to, nothing through the city of Richmond?
No, as been pointed out, this is not an incorporated part of the county, so
Yeah.
all of the planning goes through the county planning department, not the city of Richmond.
So if any of us have concerns about that, then we need to be talking to the county planning department, the county people that you're negotiating with. Can you tell us where you are in terms of your negotiation along the way of buying this property?
I do want to address the observation because I think there's a misperception here. You say a mixture of private and public. Just to be clear, we are independent of the district, but we're a nonprofit. It's not like, if you want to call that private, that's fair. I don't want to debate. But the undertone of the commentary and the concern over the mixing was really around your business or accruing to us in some way. As a nonprofit, there are no investors. There's nobody who wins and takes that money. So I just want to put that out there, and we can happily talk more about it in detail. But in terms of where we are in the process, we have only just started. All we have done at this point is learning a bit about the boundaries of the parcel and the zoning of it and the history of it. There haven't been negotiations or any of that. We haven't put the plan together and submitted it for approval. We haven't started the CEQA process and environmental consulting. We're at the very, very beginning of starting to think about this. No, we have not purchased the property. The district owns the property. It's still, I think there's a sentiment that the train has left the station without all of you, but we are much earlier in the process than I think you guys feel like we are.
To clarify, I want you to clarify that after you purchase that property, you own the property. Is that correct?
So just to be clear.
There's a title.
Sure, just to be clear, the property, if this transaction goes ahead, would be sold to us with a large number of restrictions, such as we can't resell it. So we own a property in a 501c3, which is a philanthropic organization. It's not allowed to make money, and we have no right to sell the property. If we can't use the property anymore, or we don't want to use the property, we have an obligation to offer it back to the district for the same price.
What same price?
Whatever the price is that we end up agreeing to. So
Well,
that
wait a
would
minute,
be-
you're gonna buy it at 60K, so
So
what's
it'd
the
be
price you're gonna offer it back at?
If we bought it at 60K, I think we'd have to offer it back at 60K.
Even after you put $20 million
Even after we
into it?
Even after we put $20 million in it. There would be some exceptions, like if some of the loans weren't repaid, they would be subject to, the lenders have a right to get repaid. But it would be a huge windfall for the district if we decide we can't use the property anymore. We have no right to make a profit on it. We have no right to sell it. We will have title, but with a lot of restrictions on it that make it impossible for us to make any money. With respect to your other comments, so we are a 501c3 registered charity. All of our books and records, our tax returns are public. All of our meetings are public. The minutes are public, and nobody makes any money. I personally work every day for free. My wife and co-founder work for free. Our board of directors work for free. Nobody is making any money of it, and there's no opportunity to make any money. Is that a question?
But, hello.
I'm happy to answer your question.
Hi, there's an order here.
Why don't I just answer his question? Okay? And then you can come next. Is that okay?
Why does he get the question ahead of me when
Okay,
I'm Hi, my name is Rita Bauer. I'm a teacher at Mira Business School. I've been here for over 20 years, and our school has grown in the neighborhood. We have, I have the United Nations sitting in front of me every day. That's why I love this school so much that I've been here for so long. This has, public education is a very tedious process. We are always underfunded, and when you say you want to enrich public education, it does actually the opposite. Every student that goes into a charter school gives less money to our school district. That is what's the matter. And private philanthropists buying and doing this process, they undermine public education. Instead of solidly funding public education, funding our schools, funding or helping, we could be helping funding our schools, they've taken it in a direction, they want to have an impact on what public education is supposed to be like. Teachers are not supposed to be in the union. They're supposed to be working for less money even that they are being paid right now within a unionized system. They're supposed to be trained just that way and working in just that way. And the freedom with all the errors that came with it of public education being a process of a community and a public process will be taken away when this group goes into several communities. It really isn't even your choice anymore. It's making it so that finally, in order to have pathway decently funded schools, you have to go there. In this way, it is ending public education as we know it. And that is what we need to keep in mind. And I think here, as the cripple we are, we need to make a stand. We have a good thing going here. We have a great school. Why would we have a school right next to it that takes this away from us in the longer run? We have to be on the lookout for our children.
Yes, good afternoon. I have been a teacher in Contra School for over 21 years. I'm retired now. And it seems to me the presentation that the caliber representatives made rests on 3 points. One, parent choice. It would take a much longer period of time to discuss the perverted concept of choice that is behind your words, because that is not choice at all. Like the community here did not have you here. We really need. Second, you have repeated several times that you are a public school, and before I ask my question, I would like to just remind you of what Al Shanker said, one of the founders of the charter school movement. Just after 2 years that he started this movement, he washed his hands off of it, saying these people are more interested in public money than in public education. And you stated before that your records are public, but that's not true. The records of our public schools are public. We know how much Dr. Harder makes, we know how much teachers make, we know how much our administrators make, and we don't know anything about your schools. We don't know anything about your schools. We don't know how much you make. I don't believe you're working for free. We don't know how much your administrators make. And your teachers certainly, we don't know how much they make. And finally, you said that the backbone of your schools, that teachers are the backbone of your schools. In what sense are teachers the backbone of your schools? I would like to ask all those present here, the teachers here, who belongs to the union? Who of the teachers here belong to a union? See, and I'm asking this question. The question really is, how many of your teachers are unionized? Because last year, our union, the UTR Representative Council, passed a resolution, and that is the law upholding the right of charter school teachers to organize to ensure both quality education and protected professional and employment rights as guaranteed by the Educational Employment Relations Act, Chapter 10.7, Section 3540, and Article 5 of the California Education Code 47650. That is the law too. And if some of our school board members think that by supporting you, they are enforcing the law, well, let me tell you, laws can change. And there is a movement, and I signed a petition to do away with this naked corporate takeover of public money. And there is a lot to be said about the manner in which you choose your students. Because there's a lot of students here that come from low-income families, and they don't manifest from the start, from the moment that they apply, a desire to continue, a desire to belong to your schools. We don't want to happen, we don't want what is happening right now in other districts. No. We don't want that to happen here. No. And we will do our best to have you and your organization and all your charter schools out of our district.
So our teachers have every right to form a union under that legislation. This is only the second year that our school has been in existence. We don't have a union as of yet. They have every right to do so. And then I also wanted to clarify the point about choosing students. So we have an open and blind lottery system. Our parents simply fill out the paperwork online. We don't know anything about the student's background or any of that, and it's a blind lottery that we have no control over. So we're not selecting students. They're kind of coming to us.
Okay, I have a question about other sites. This has like 3 little parts, but it's pretty simple. I think you can handle it. First of all, what other sites were offered to you? On what grounds did you reject those other sites? And on your online Q&A, you speak of Adams as being an inspiring site, but that the Kennedy Siege area is not. So how do you explain your commitment to low-income students whose neighborhoods you reject?
Let's
I
call
can,
this song exactly what it is.
if I can answer, there's two parts to that. One about what sites were offered to us. To be clear, no other sites were offered to us. You can talk to the district, and I think they've already answered the question about why they felt this was the right site. So we weren't offered a bunch of sites and rejected them and held out for this. We do think it makes sense for a variety of reasons that we've already laid out. I will say, though, to be very clear about your point about Kennedy, we have no issue with the neighborhood there. We have an issue with being in a bunch of portables on an asphalt parking lot, having no play fields, no multi-purpose room, paltry bathrooms. It is a really substandard facility. So it's not the neighborhood. It is the facility that we are trying to find. And secondly, the fact that it is temporary. The district has never said, and nor should they, that that is a viable long-term home for a school. It has always been used as a temporary decanting site for schools while they await a permanent home. And so that's where we've been, and we've been waiting and trying to push for a long-term permanent home for the school. So whether it would be Adams or somewhere else, would be an interesting debate if there was a somewhere else that was available and empty, as is pointed out by Board Member Cuevas. There wasn't another option. And I think that's just the reality. So I want to make sure that you all understand that we didn't say, let's be super choosy and pick this specifically. It is the option that works for all the reasons that have already been articulated.
Hi, my name is Doria. I am one of the collective members of Urban Tilt. We are an urban organization. I let folks know our work. I came here tonight to actually advocate for the farm that we've been working at Adams Site for the last 5 years. 5 years, hundreds of youth from this community have spent thousands of hours developing a 1-acre site at the old kind of that baseball field, the upper field in Adams. We grow food for the community, we grow food, sell it at farm stands, use that to support our garden programs at Verde Elementary School and Richmond High School. Just been in service to the community. I think that we've clocked over 1,000 volunteers at Adams alone, all of the people who live here, many of the people who live here come to volunteer. It's a community space. So I came here tonight to advocate for that. And I do have feeling extremely challenged. Actually, Luis and I were talking about this because when we work in community, we work in community. Urban Tilt goes and knocks on doors, talks to people face to face, invites them in. So Luis and I and the rest of Urban Tilt are feeling extremely challenged to understand how we work with an organization who disregards community. I did not expect what I'm hearing tonight from community members, and it's just not the way we rolled for the last 10 years here in our home community. We are all from here. My brother went to Adams, That said, I want to also kind of make public that I was one of the handful of people in this room that was met with Ron on Monday, yesterday, after being contacted on Saturday that this was happening at all. So, again, I feel challenged because I get a message via LinkedIn on Saturday afternoon saying, hey, let's talk. And I'm like, okay, I'm glad that somebody wants to talk to us and acknowledges our project. And it's Saturday, and the meeting is Tuesday, and y'all have been talking for a while. And then we meet on Monday, the day before. And I have to say that in that meeting, Ron said everything we probably want to hear, that Is that your intention?
Do you want me to respond to your whole comment? Or just
I
to
was
this?
wanting to respond to that, and then I want to finish.
Absolutely.
Right. So I guess my question becomes, or maybe it's just a comment. The only way that Urban Tilth could feel comfortable working with Caliber is if this communication, this lack of respect for our community radically changes. Radically changes. We have people in this community who are extremely passionate about other people in this community, about doing things right, and y'all didn't do things right. Just to this point. And there needs to be some clarity about that. And we could take time to blame the district and whatnot, but as the people who are coming in, I think that even if somebody else isn't doing something right, you can take the initiative to do things the way you would like it done for you and your community. There are deeper issues here around charter schools and what's happening to public education. And I have no answers for that. But just in terms of the farm and having access to a place where people can just have space, whether it be the students in the school. And I would also like to be clear that community access to that space needs to be maintained. To privatize that would also be a disrespect to the community. So my question is, can we maintain community access in a form, I understand that it's a school and there's things that go along with that, maintain community access, and what plan do you have in place if this is going to go forward to change the way you're in community with all of us?
Okay, hold on one second. We're going to extend it to 8:30 in regards to that. So if you can please get your questions in, it's about 7:50 right now.
So, first of all, thank you for that comment. And I guess I have to say to all of you, I mean, I apologize. We've obviously gotten off on a terrible foot, and I feel terrible about that. And there's no way between now and 8:30, and frankly, we're happy to stay all night or have another meeting or whatever, but there's no way that we can get to know you or you can get to know us well enough for you to trust us. And obviously, you don't feel heard, and you don't feel trusted. And as I said, I apologize for that, and I feel terrible about that. We, as an organization, view community and communication as a core value. And so I think we're all sitting up here horrified that this is how you feel. You know, we really, and obviously we've totally screwed this up. We intended this as a first conversation, not a last conversation. This is the beginning of a process whereby we figure out how to make Adams into a thriving and appropriate part of the community. So I'll take responsibility for Caliber. The district can take responsibility or not as they wish, but yeah, we've totally screwed this up. We've gotten off on the wrong foot. We,
What are you going
Sure.
to do now? What process? What is
Sure,
the process?
sure. So I guess I'll say a few things. I think, and this, Caliber has a community now. We have 600 families, and I encourage all of you to come and visit. And we're happy to arrange meetings, with Caliber families. We deliberately didn't bring hundreds of Caliber families here because we wanted this to be an opportunity for you to ask us questions and not a, cheerleading session for Caliber. But I think we need to do a lot of things, is your answer. I think we need to figure out a way to communicate with you regularly. I think we need to figure out a way for there to be dialogue. I guess, we will, as I said, any one of you is welcome to contact me. I'm the founder, and have a one-on-one meeting or a small group meeting. I'm happy for you to come to us. I'm happy for us to come to you. And obviously we need to figure out how to make a better, more formal process. So on behalf of Caliber Schools, I apologize to all of you that you don't feel heard. We genuinely meant this as the beginning because We haven't hired architects, we haven't planned the site. This is really when we start doing that, if the district and Caliber decide to go ahead, and then we move forward there. So I hope you guys will give us the chance to get to know us. I think we'll be a good part of the community. I think Mira Vista and Caliber can thrive together, but as Mark has said, we're not going to persuade you in the next 40 minutes of that. So hopefully, over the next weeks and months and years, we can get to know one another and trust one another.
Community. Hi, my name is Chris Ross, I'm a teacher of Teachers of Richmond. So when I look at your board, you have your descriptions of the people on your board. I know that Ron, you have a history with Goldman Sachs. And I also see that Pete Bridger, who's a board member, has a history with Goldman Sachs. When I go down to Nanny Cancer, he's got a history with Eli Grove Foundation, which is a school privatization, as you I'm sure will. And, oh, sorry, if we go on, we continue to see investment banker, venture capitalists. Vivian Wu worked at Excel Partners, a leading venture capital firm. She also went to Pennsylvania's Warren School, which I'm sure a lot of people here are familiar with. Now, this area was really devastated by Goldman Sachs, as I'm sure you know, during the housing crisis. It's funny, so was Vallejo, but the other Contra schools. And so I think the reason that maybe you're feeling some animosity from the community is because people like yourselves have already come into this community and taken so much away from it. Especially from the people of color. Because as we know, the housing crisis disproportionately affected people of color, Latinos, and African American people. And your presence here is going to further destabilize the school system. I'm sure you know that. That's the fact. You say you're here to help people, but I don't know what you're here doing. I'm sure that you know what you're doing. But you know that when you take 600, 800 students out of the school district, that means that there are going to be more combination classes. That means that there are less teachers. That means that the classes in the district, who, by the way, also serve students of color, will have less opportunity to advance. So your presence here is not helping the district. Your presence here hurts the district. And I think you have to admit that to yourself. If you're here to assuage your past sins in the financial industry, you're not doing a good job of it because your presence here harms the students that are here, harms the teachers that are here. Now, if you think that you have an idea that we don't have, you're wrong. What you have is more resources. The reason you can work for free is you're rich. You don't work for free because you're nice. You work for free because you're rich, and we aren't. And so what I want to make clear to you, I want you to understand that and admit to yourself at some point that you're here doing harm to the community, doing harm to the public school district. I'm sure you have a great school. But it's not because you have new ideas, it's because you have more resources. And if we had the kind of resources you have, you wouldn't have a chance here because the school district would have the funding that you have. So some of the money that you were able to, now maybe not you, and I don't want to be I don't want to go on and on about things that aren't true, but if you have connections with the financial industry, you have connections to capital that you can use to start your school. We don't have those resources. So my question is, again, and I'm going to repeat what the person in the back says, what is your story for your turnaround where instead of making money for your own personal gain, you decided to help low-income students of color? That's my question.
My story. Sure. I believe in the American dream because I'm a product of it. I believe that people should have a right to speak without being interrupted. My father grew up with nothing in Brooklyn, New York. He went to New York City public schools. He served in the Army. He went to Brooklyn College on the GI Bill. He sold insurance door to door. And I got to go, I'm a graduate of public schools. I got to go to an Ivy League college. I got to have a career on Wall Street. And I got to retire so that I could give back. And my kids have every opportunity. My kids get internships. My kids can go to whatever school they want. And it just seems really unfair to me that every kid doesn't have that. So You can question my motives or whatever, but I'm here to give everyone the choice that my kids have, because I don't think it's fair. Now, I'm not an enemy of the public school system. I think you run a terrific school here. I just believe in parent choice. I know that if I don't like the school that my kids are going to, because I might be rich, I have a choice and I can send them somewhere else. If you don't like the school your kids are going to, maybe you don't have that choice. As Val Cuevas said, the state has created a mechanism for parents to have choice. I didn't invent the law. The state said that in the public school system, there are districts and there are charters. We've created a public school. We don't make any money off of it. We're a public school. We're not selective. And we're here because we believe that parents want choice. What evidence of that is there? We are oversubscribed. We have 600 families coming. We could easily have another 600. In Vallejo, we have 300 places. We have 600 applicants. Parents are choosing. They may not choose what you choose, but you have to respect their choice as well.
So, just really quick follow-up question. This is what it
So there's
says.
only about an hour left. I'm happy to stay all night. But
Then you won't,
why do you respect the other people that can speak?
So my follow-up question is, the reason that the state created the mechanism for you to have your charter school is because the Charter School Foundation has lobbyists and lawyers that can write law, put them get it passed through the proposition system. So it isn't quite as simple as you made it sound, and I'm sure you agree with me. Thank you.
Mr. Bell. This question's for you, Mr. Bell. One, do you have a degree in education? And two, is your board elected? And do your board members live in our community?
So most of my staff lives in Richmond or in the nearby community. I heard your question. Most of my staff lives in the community. I live in San Francisco, but I work here every day. It's a nice place. And our board, one of our board members lives in Vallejo. The rest of our board members live in San Francisco or but we have a mixture of educators on the board. We have, Dr. Lopez is
You can read the full bios. I think to the point of your question, they don't live in Richmond, but they do have education backgrounds in some cases. In other cases, they are philanthropically minded donors, just for the same sort.
Are they publicly elected?
They are not publicly elected. No.
Okay. And Mr. Beller, do you have a degree in education?
No, I have a degree in history.
Thank you.
Okay, this might be a question two-part, but more directed towards the board. Since this property is not designated as a surplus property, then presumably the Mailer Act, Section 17, 4/4.5, is inapplicable. What is the regulatory regime for you overseeing this sale?
So I'm going to let Sklar answer that question. He is actually this keeps going up.
Can everyone hear me? Can everyone hear me?
Come to the center.
Okay.
You're by the speaker, that's
Oh,
why.
that's why. So my name is Ed Sklar. I'm the legal counsel for the school district. And I think the question that you're asking is why isn't this being brought under the surplus property
Well, no, I know
statute?
that it's not designated as a surplus property, so I'm
Right.
saying, what is the operating regulatory regime for this sale in terms of the valuation and how it could be disposed in the event that the Caliber wanted to be off of the property?
Right, so we're going to create or try and finalize a contract that will be presented to the public when it's finalized. And this is being brought under the Proposition 39 statutory scheme, which contemplates that a district may reach, in lieu of straight Prop 39 regulations, may reach an alternative agreement between the district and a charter school in regard to fulfilling the Prop 39 obligations.
And then the second part of that is public schools have to be constructed under the Field Act rather than the Uniform Building Code. In this situation, would the Field Act apply?
If it is a charter school, then they are not obligated to build to the Field Act. They are obligated to build to the state building code standards.
Okay, but
They could build to the Field Act, but they're obligated to build to the
Okay, so then I guess the next question would be, you intend to do that regulatory regime into those standards?
So I'm not an architect. As I said, we haven't hired the architect. We're going to comply with all relevant codes, whether it's the state education code or the county code, to build a safe building.
Right, that's actually not the question.
Yeah, I just don't know the answer. I'm not an architect, but
Okay,
you're welcome to
so-
participate, as is everyone.
Well, I'm just asking more for the purpose of, charter schools have a kind of a separate carve-out, the UDCU and whatever applies, they don't, and that's partially, that's a waiver that was designed because the charters operated out of portables predominantly, and applying the Field Act. Portables would be probably not a good idea for a lot of reasons. But since this is going to be a 1,200-seater that's sitting right on the Hayward Fault, the Field Act was contemplated to protect defenseless children. And so I think that we would want a reassurance that the Field Act would absolutely apply to whatever retrofit or building would take place on that property.
You know, we're going to be working in the site, so we don't want it to fall down either, as are all of our children. But as I said, I can't answer your question because I'm an architect. I don't even know what the Field Act says. But I assure you, we will comply with all relevant codes to build a safe school.
Good evening. I'm Kristen Jones. I teach 3rd grade at Vallejo Elementary School. I'm a member of the United Teachers of Richmond. And I was wondering if all the United Teachers of Richmond who are sitting could stand, and all the ones who are standing could raise their hand. So if you're a retired teacher or a current teacher, United Teachers of Richmond, stand. I was also wondering if all SEIU local 1 could stand or raise their hand. Any other union members who are here can raise their hand. Anyone married to a union member can raise their hand. Anyone who has a child who's a member of a union, can you please raise your hand? Okay, thank you. A question and a comment. My question is, how will you ensure that union labor is used to work on the Adams building? How will you ensure that? And then, so I guess there would have to be some kind of retrofitting and building, I don't know exactly what's going to happen. Up at Hilltop Mall, there was a charter school, I don't know if it was Caliber or Aspire or something. Was it Aspire? And the Carpenters Union, I don't know if you know how to picket line up, so I hope nobody crossed it. Because they were flying in scab labor from Nevada, and we're not hiring local members of the Carpenters Union. So those jobs didn't go to Richmond, El Cerrito, Carpenter. They went to Nevada and unionized Carpenters. So that's my question. I have a comment. Even though California Teachers Association might have some kind of, I don't know, rapprochement or a friendly deal, live and let live with the charters, the United Teachers of Richmond will fight you, and that's what we plan on doing. We are not going to allow the further expansion of charter schools in the district. I noticed there's a lot of school board members here. The ones that ran up to defend you were Cuevas and Block. And I'm wondering, my question to them is, did any of them take Charter School Association money for their school board campaign? So I'd like to set the record straight. Wait a second. You get to make whatever judgments about somebody you've never met. The first question.
Your question.
The first question.
The question is first, because you're making
The first question
out
I
of
asked.
your community members,
The first question.
is no. I've never taken $1 in my campaign account from the Charter Schools Association. Look it up.
Okay, no, this is Richmond. And the law.
This is Richmond. I live in Richmond.
Good.
So
The other board member thought it was also.
I can't speak for the other board members. I can build a I'm here to speak as a person with dignity, with you as a person with dignity. I'd like to meet every one of you. And I'd like for you to walk in these shoes and try to solve these problems. And we can do it together. But we can't do it by spreading falsehoods.
But that's what I'm asking.
Ma'am, I have never taken $1 from the Charter Schools Association. I want to make that clear. Okay? So here's the issue. The question was, have I ever taken? The answer is no. And you have no idea how much I decided that I would not, because you know why? This isn't about charters to me. This is about representing all our schools and our students and our families fairly.
If you want to hold a grudge and wage a war with the charters, man, that's what the United States is about, feel free. But I'm here to solve problems for all our families and our schools. And that's what I want to do. And good regional people, the history of this country is about doing that. And we can do that. But the point is I want to make it clear, because it will be in somebody else's political benefit to say that I have, and the reality is I haven't. And if you really want to come question and ask me how I made that decision, my door is always open, and I welcome everybody. Thank you.
And also, there were people from charter schools who supported me, but they did not donate. I did not take a dime from charter schools. And as far as, has anybody here ever, have you all lived mistake-free lives? I'm sorry, I didn't know this was Richmond. Okay, so I said El Seguido and you said you're listening. I hope we can get past that. I hope we can get past that.
Let them answer the question about the union. I want to hear about the union. The order.
I already asked the question. That was my first question.
So as I said, we haven't hired an architect, we haven't hired a project manager, and we'll figure out what we're going to do.
No, asking, can you guarantee that you will hire union labor?
No, we're not going to guarantee anything.
Hi, I'm Wendy. I'm a Mira Vista parent, and I live in this community. I have a question more regarding kind of logistics, which is how walkable is Adams site to the people, to the families that you serve? So that's the first part. It's a two-part question. The second part of it is that a couple years ago, the city of Richmond released a general plan that basically had policy regarding new school siting. So I'm just going to read this really briefly, which it said, work closely with West Contra Costa County School District and other educational providers on location of public school facilities in order to locate schools so that the number of students who can walk to school safely is maximized. The second one is locate elementary schools near the center of their attendance areas. Third one, develop permanent school facilities having a student capacity scaled to accommodate the long-range student load of their attendance districts. And the last one, which is develop school sites of sufficient size to accommodate all school and recreational facilities without interference with adjoining residential uses. So my question is, how do you see what's being proposed at the Adams site fitting into Richmond's long-term plan?
So, as we've said, we view ourselves as a school for the entire Richmond community, and if you wanted to look at a map of where our family is, they're from pretty much every neighborhood. So if City Hall were available, we'd be happy to locate our school there, because that would be at the epicenter. As we've said before, there was one school building that the district had available that wouldn't have involved displacing hundreds of other kids, and that was the Adams site, which has been vacant since 2009. We canvassed all our families before going ahead with discussions with the district, and most of our families drive to school now. There is no location which would be walkable for most of our families, so that's nice in theory but not nice in practice. And virtually all of our families were overwhelmingly in favor of coming to the Adams campus.
And the second part of that, how does it fit into Richmond?
So we are committed to neighborhood schools with regard to our district schools. And recently our board did just approve our facilities master plan, which I do believe is consistent with what the city of Richmond goals are for public schools.
But then what is the impact on traffic for all the people that are surrounding that are here? I mean, it's a huge traffic impact, neighborly impact, environmental impact.
So as Mr. Beller did indicate, so he did say that he would be reviewing the traffic impacts and working with the community with regard to those impacts, and I think that's a commitment from him.
Yeah, just to be clear, it doesn't have to be a commitment for me, it's the law. The county will decide ultimately what the use is of the site, and the county will require a CEQA process. We're not asking for a waiver. That will include an independent third-party traffic consultant who will dictate traffic flows and patterns, but our intention is not to impose an undue burden on the community. The school did have roughly 1,200 kids at its peak, middle schoolers, and so we will follow, and the community will be part of that. We will follow what the traffic experts and the environmental experts and what the county planning department ultimately decides, with voice from all of you.
I would say with all of the promises of commitment to the community, that starts early in the process, not middle, not toward the end, opposite of this meeting in a lot of ways. I have a lot of questions. One, you offered a map of where all of your students come from. I would love to see a copy of that. How can I get that?
Why don't you just take my card and send me an email, and I'll be happy to send it to
Okay,
you.
does it break it down in numbers? Like, not just you have one child that lives in this area, but does it break it down in numbers of your entire school? I would like to see that, so it's not just...
I'm not sure. Why don't you just send me an email with what you're asking for?
Okay, we all want to know. But I think everybody wants to know, so you can provide that map somehow to the entire community.
We'll post it on our website.
Or actually, okay. And I'm baffled. I'm a public school teacher for 15 years. If I could just get a straight answer, you guys don't offer any busing at all to your students? Okay.
The government doesn't give us any funding
So
for busing.
I hear that. I just want to speak educator to educator. I would, on the base, I hope all of us think of equity as the core value of all education. That if you don't offer, if it's not a neighborhood school and you don't offer busing, it excludes so many families. At my school, we won't have a meeting if we don't offer childcare and busing to all of our families. So I just educator to educator. On a core value, I think the government doesn't provide funding for that, but you've talked about a lot of philanthropists that you work with. Maybe up to this, if you're really going to equally serve all of the kids of Richmond, you have to offer busing. And I know it's money, but you clearly can make it money. So on a really level, even if no other charter school do it, if you don't offer busing, it's not including all of the students. Just because your families can't drive, they're probably making huge sacrifices to do that. So offer busing. If you're not a neighborhood school, you have to offer busing.
So I'm wondering, why does the sale have to receive any traffic or environmental impact statements or investigations? My other question is, how can you say that this isn't going to affect the Mira Vista and Riverside community when you're overlapping the same grades? And also, how can you say that you are a public school that is open to all the students and everyone in the community when you require online applications, and there's a huge percentage of the population that doesn't have internet access?
But just to be clear, and we do not require online access. We offer it, and many of our parents choose to fill in an application on paper, which they're welcome to do as well. And I'm sorry, what were your other two questions?
How can you say that this isn't gonna affect the local community when you're overlapping the local schools, when you're overlapping on the same grades? And also, why does the sale have to precede any traffic or environmental evaluation?
Thank you for that. So you're asking how can we say that opening up another K-8 a mile from here won't affect this school, or less than a mile, 3/4 of a mile. So to be honest, we're baffled by this. You know, we are full and have a waiting list on 36 portables in the Kennedy campus, and virtually all of our families have expressed the intent to come up to this campus. And you guys are full, and you obviously have a very strong community, so I'm not sure why anyone would leave. So it seems to me there's plenty of demand for your school and plenty of demand for our school, and I don't see why they can't coexist and thrive together. And then I guess you were asking, why can't we do traffic studies prior to a sale? Well, you know, we're going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on studies, and I really can't see that it's not a violation of my responsibility to be a good steward of the philanthropy or the state funds we get to spend that money if we don't know we have a transaction. You know, every real estate developer in the world would lock up a property before spending hundreds of thousands of dollars.
My name is Charles Smith. resident. I've lived in Richmond for 43 years and raised a family here. Richmond is a struggling blue-collar community. It has a few rich people, but it has an awful lot of hard-working, genuine working-class people. When I say struggling, we were damn near in bankruptcy in 2004, and we pulled ourselves out of it. And then, in 2008, the stock market crashed, and it decimated the housing in the city of Richmond. People lost their homes. People had their homes devalued, and the tax rate went down. So the quality of life in Richmond went down the drain with it. The budget is coming up in another month for the city of Richmond, and we're between $8 and $11 million in the red, with no way to get that money that we can see. Richmond is on the brink of bankruptcy, and if not this year, next year it'll probably be worse. I think that what Wall Street did to this nation, if I were you, I'd be ashamed to be here. Exactly. And instead of standing there talking about how you want to help us, if the only reason you came down here to help us is because you think your soul is destined for hell. Now I'm going to tell you, everybody in the city of Richmond understands our financial situation, and it is not pretty. And it's no secret as to why that happened. We saw our neighbors' houses go. We saw our neighbors go. We've been struggling to get on top, and we're not getting back. And then you, a graduate of Goldman Sachs, one of the worst companies on Wall Street, comes to our town because you want to help us? And you expect us to believe you? You're not Mother Teresa. You don't even look like her. And I don't trust you, and I don't think very many people in this room trust you. And for good reason.
My name is Richmond. I'm a Mayor Vista teacher. I'm a Mayor Vista parent, and I'm a Mayor Vista grad. I was here in 1980, and I went and saw a lot of things. Well, I came back because this is a very special place to be. As you can see, we have a strong community here. I have a lot of concerns about this project, but the one that really comes to the top of my mind is about the scale. Yes, at one time it held 800, 1,200, but and also, I wanted to clarify, at the beginning of this meeting, it sounded like the approval number was somewhere around 800, but can you clarify, are you approved to 1,200? And if so, I really ask you to consider what 1,200 students on a K-8 level looks like. That's unprecedented in this area to have an elementary school over 1,000 students. It's not the same as middle school students in the same numbers. We work with our K-8 every day, and we see that getting the little ones from the cars into their classrooms, all that is a big deal. And so as we're contemplating sharing our roads and our sidewalks and our neighborhood, fine, but 1,200 is a huge number, and I feel it is an unsafe number when you really think about it. So I know you're saying you're at the early stages, but I would implore you to really consider what 1,200 young students look like. And so please don't say we haven't gotten that far in the process. Please answer, how do you really think that 1,200, excuse me, I'm emotional because we love our school and we want to keep our neighborhood safe. And if we're going to be sharing it, we want to make sure it's safe, both for your Caliber students and our Mayor Vista students together. Thank you.
Look, you asked us not to say we're early in the process, but we are. I don't know what else to say, but I will say again, well, I'll say two things. First of all, we live this every day already. So we do understand what you're saying about pick up and drop off of the young kids. No, I'm just saying, like, it's not like we're sitting in some office in the sky dreaming up schools. We have a school. We have 600 kids. We know exactly what drop off and pick up and transitions between classes at K all the way up. So we totally understand that. And all we can say at this point is that, yes, we understand, yes, we're considering that, and yes, it will be a process that we're just at the beginning of. And when you said, how big are we now? We are 810 students right now.
Okay, so can I just do one follow-up then? So if you are serving a population from throughout Richmond and surrounding cities, and you want to serve families that are feeling underserved at this time, is it fair to say they're going to be coming a long distance and they're going to be coming through our roads? It's going to be a burden on those families to travel so far from what would have been their neighborhood schools.
But that implies that all of our kids happen to live right around the corner from us now. They already come from all over the town. A lot of them come from here and go down there. So I agree it's challenging, but they want to come to our school. They see a lot of value in the education that we offer. And, you know, that's all I can say. I don't know what else I can say about that. But I will say again, back to what I said before, we are not going to decide how many students can fit on this campus. That is something that's going to be a process that goes with the county planning department, with neighborhood feedback. Okay.
Good evening, my name is Peter Chow. As a concerned citizen, I'm deeply concerned about the encroachment of charter schools into our neighborhood schools. Tonight, the district offered us an explanation for the sale of Adams Middle School as being a good value. So in addition to the $60,000 that you will sell the Adams Middle School site, so what I'm hearing is that Caliber Charter School is supposed to surrender or waive their Proposition 39 right. But in my mind, there's been an instance in the past when charter schools have waived their rights, such as the parcel tax, only to find a third party who asserted that the waiver was no good. So is Caliber Charter School prepared to fully surrender their Proposition 39 right and offensively block any type of third party from asserting the right independent of Caliber?
I don't really understand your question, but I assume the district is well represented and they've got.
Well, I'd be happy to clarify. So in the parcel tax that was passed in 2012, not one word in that parcel tax measure mentioned charter schools. Yet the California Charter School Association filed a lawsuit asserting a constitutional right based on equal protection claims to the portion of the parcel tax. They claimed through these parents that the waiver that the charter schools signed, waiving their rights to the parcel tax, was no good. This lawsuit was settled by the district and the California Charter School Association. So I'm glad, Mr. Beller, that you are a history major like myself, because I looked to the past in order to determine what the future outcome would be. So my question is Caliber Charter School prepared to fully surrender their Proposition 39 right to reasonably equivalent facilities and offensively block any type of third party from asserting that right on behalf of Caliber? Was that question clear enough?
I got the question. So the answer to that is we don't have a finalized agreement yet, but I would expect that any finalized agreement that I would negotiate would have a full waiver along with the defense and indemnity provision, okay? And so that would protect against the district against lawsuits being filed by the Charter School Association or Caliber on any type of this transaction.
And will you
Further say, Mr. Chow, you claim to be a progressive, but I think that you want to deny children or parents the right to choose where they go to school. And I would further say, with respect to the parcel tax,
I actually have.
the parcel tax was for all children. The district decided to deny access to the parcel tax funds to charter school children. We don't really understand why our children who attend who attend public schools and live in the district shouldn't get equal access to those funds.
If you don't get your questions answered, try to make the room. But there will be bars.
I don't think I never said anything about parents not being able to choose. In fact, my mom chose to come here to this state in order to enroll me in the public education system. I'm a proud product of this school district, and I believe that parents do have a choice. My question was very simple, because in May 12 of 2015, you submitted a proposal to the school district in which you wanted to lease the Adams Middle School site for 90 or 99 years for $15 a year, and then all of a sudden the Adams Middle School site disappeared into closed session only because I found out only because 5,000 Patterson Circle was listed under closed session. So all I'm trying to do tonight is try to figure out what the details of this deal is, because it's been conducted in closed session. So all I'm here is just trying to get some information on behalf of the public.
And that's why the board should be held at closed door meeting.
Right, exactly.
You want us to be happy about it? You want us to be happy? No, I'm not going to.
Hi, my name is Liz
I'm not going to
Sanders.
be happy with you, nor do we have to like you.
There is such a thing as manners. I think it's still important. So if we could at least.
I'm sure it matters. He called him a name.
I'm
You called him a
actually,
name.
this thing is
That's
not
what
actually debating because I think his anger is really warranted.
Yes.
I think it's really understandable. I think there's been a lot of personal stuff going back and forth tonight. I'm gonna go ahead and ask a question now, but that's why I was waiting for him. Because I do think that there has been some hurt that's been brought up in this room, and that needs to be valued and recognized as you come into someone else's community.
That's right.
I grew up in this community within walking distance of this school my entire childhood. I went to West County Public Schools, graduated from them, went to Stanford, went to Columbia, chose to move back to teach in West County schools because this community made me fall in love with the idea of a community school, of the idea of public education that is for all of us. So I have two questions tonight, and I really hope that I can get specific answers because with all due respect, your answers felt a little bit evasive and euphemistic, and I'm hoping we can get some transparency here. One has to do with the timeline and with the exact way that we came up with this number that is now this potential sale of Adams School. So if we're going to be real about this timeline, because there's been a lot of conversation about this being the beginning of a discussion, or the beginning of a conversation. Caliber came to the facilities subcommittee to talk about the Adams School site in May 2015. So it's been a full year that this conversation has been going on. And there have obviously been some kind of negotiations, some kind of discussions, or you wouldn't be able to get to that number of 60,000. And I would like some specifics about how you came up with that, because I know and I understand the legal argument for why the district can't sell Adams at fair market value. But unless I'm really confused about the Bay Area real estate market right now, there's a huge chasm between $60,000 and fair market value for that site. And my second question, to answer really quickly, if I can give it, my second question has to do with this sense of being for all students. Because earlier in the beginning presentation, you mentioned a couple times that Caliber is just not for everybody. And there are different mechanisms by which schools determine their target population, right? There's admissions, so we understand that there's an admissions lottery. There's also expulsion. So if we're going to be really real about who attends Caliber, especially if all of them apparently can drive to school, who is your target population? And who, therefore, in our community is not for your school?
So, in answer to the second question, we think everyone is for our school. Some people choose not to stay there. And just like we accept anyone who wants to come, we can't force anyone to stay. You want to speak to expulsions?
I think as far as our model, there are some students who learn well when they are in a small group, and some who prefer to be working with a partner, and some who prefer to be on a computer, and some really love coding, and some really don't like coding, and some love our CrossFit class, and some want traditional PE. So when we speak about Caliber not necessarily being for everyone, it's really about the best fit for your student and the way that they learn, and not about saying that there is a demographic or a population of students who don't fit with us. We are open to any and all students who want to be there, and some who come to our school.
Specify if they can drive there, if they can do that.
Right. And to clarify your point from earlier, that there are several parents who have approached me about needing.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just hope from here on out, like every meeting, you never say everybody is included. Because everybody is not welcome unless they can drive. You got to check that.
There are systematic barriers, right? I think that's what we're trying to bring up. We understand that there aren't things that you're saying, like, we don't take this kid or we don't take that kid nominally, but it's pretty apparent in
that your schools siphon out certain students and take others?
So do you want me to answer your first question,
Yes,
or do you want me
please.
to address that? I mean, I would say that the district and we are all operating in a money-constrained environment. We all wish we had more resources. We all wish we could pay our teachers better. We all wish we could have 2 teachers in every classroom. We're operating on the same budget as you guys are, and we are as constrained as you guys are. So that's frustrating. In return, like when there's a negotiation, I think both sides have a perspective. I can just give you my perspective. The district has a legal obligation to provide us with a facility that's reasonably equivalent to every other child in the district. So we would like that. We don't really want our kids in 16 portables or 36 portables on asphalt. We would like them to have a multi-purpose room. Please let me finish. But just like everyone else. In order to make the transaction work, we were able to access some state funds that the district is unable to access. So we're going to put $20 million into something that we believe by our rights should be free. So the district is saving that money. It can use it elsewhere. We're putting $20 million to get a reasonably equivalent facility that the district's obligated to give us for free. So that's how come $60,000 is sort of a rounding error in the context of what we're putting in. But maybe the district has it.
I would agree, and I think that before we're pulling out a number as to what they're paying, when the agreement is finalized and when it is shown to the public and before there is this public hearing, that you take a look at the entirety of the agreement and see the restrictions that are put on the property, the waiver that is provided, that will be provided by Caliber, all of those elements, before just saying, well, they sold the property for $60,000. And that's, I think that when it's finalized, then it will be something that, it needs to be looked at in its entirety.
Hi, my name is Faiza, and my kids they were here in school, and my other son, he was here, and I transferred him to Caterpillar, so I'm on both sides, and I want to talk to all the community here, and instead of fighting each other and calling each other names, let's all get together and find a solution. Adams School has been closed for a long time, and we could do something if we put our hands and our thoughts and mind together. We could do something for all the children. All of you forget one thing. We are here for our children, and that's what we should think about, our children's future. If we keep doing that, we have no future for our children. I would like for everyone to consider that. Thank you.
Okay, I'm a Mira Vista parent. I live in El Cerrito, Miss Block, but this is my neighborhood school, and I'm glad that my children are able to come here, and we chose the school. I hear you say a lot about parent choice, and I think that that's a really good talking point and selling point for the charter schools, and I have a lot of feelings about that, but I'm not gonna get into all of that tonight. It feels though that you do have resources and financial backing and foundations that are not accessible to everyone, and that doesn't really seem like a level playing field for parents to make a good choice. But my question, I actually did a little research about the founding of the charter school movement and saw that it was about allowing some innovation. It was started by some teachers who wanted to try new things and then actually share what they had learned with the public schools. And that could be a good thing. So I would like to know, what have you done to share resources and what you're learning with Stige and with Kennedy, and will you commit tonight to share resources, not just with the church and Urban Tilt if it came to that, but with the surrounding schools, Crestmont, Mira Vista, Wilson, Stige, other schools nearby. Eastrom, Riverside, thank you.
Absolutely. So I'm a part of a cohort of principals called New Leaders for New Schools. In that cohort is the principal at Nystrom, is the principal at Grant, is the principal at Hercules Middle School. So we all do a lot of work sharing resources that we then disperse to teachers. I definitely would love to partner with the Mira Vista community. We hold our PD on Friday afternoons. I'd love to maybe invite them over to share in PD, to set up partnerships between grade level teachers so that they can collaborate. We're just one school and our teachers specialize. So there are 2 second grade math teachers or 2 second grade literacy teachers. I'd love for our teachers to have more folks that they can share ideas with and share resources with. So the idea of partnering is something that I feel really strongly about. I think it makes all of us better. I think we all have different contexts and we can learn from each other. So absolutely, I will commit right here tonight to partnering with all of our local schools. Absolutely. From 1 to 4, and but our teachers are fully committed to meeting folks outside of school hours, before school, after school, weekends. We do a lot of our planning together, so we'd be happy to meet whenever was most convenient.
I don't really know where to begin, and as I said before, I'm quite humbled and embarrassed at how badly we've done so far. And now I can say it was unintentional, and as I said before, you know, we're as I said, humbled and we apologize. So we've obviously should have started the communication process. It is challenging because we didn't really have the makings of a transaction, so until relatively recently. So we've been in discussions for years, but the discussions seemed far apart, and then those discussions happen, sort of like your haiku, sometimes they come together. So we're here now because in the last week or two, the discussions have come together, and this meeting was called hastily because as soon as the discussions came together, we want to move them forward and bring you in. But I feel terrible on behalf of Caliber, on behalf of myself. I'm sort of shocked at ourselves. We do think of ourselves as a community school. We just come here and look at things through the lens of what's best for the children. We don't have locks on our gates. We have open gates. We want the community to come and volunteer because our kids need as much reading and math help as they possibly can get. But in terms of communication specifically, I would welcome all of you to tell me what the best vehicle is to communicate, or vehicles. If there's an email list, if it's next door and you want to invite us in, if it's a Facebook group, if it's a cell phone list, or all of the above, let us know. You've got my email and cell phone there. I'm the co-founder. This is our school leader, Ashley, here, and we're available to you, but tell us how to communicate with you, and we'll try, to think of other ways, but obviously we want you to be part of this process as if we decide to go ahead and figure out how to make Adams and Caliber on Adams an addition to the community. We certainly don't want it to be a detriment.
Tonight, I'm a member of the Open Door United Methodist Church, the church that owns a majority of the Patterson Circle, and I just wanted to hear from you whether you really and truly did threaten eminent domain.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You were in conversation with our pastor, and when he said that we needed to talk about how you would access the property, he reported to the administrative council that you threatened eminent domain.
Well, with all due respect, he's not telling the truth. You're there. So, just to clarify our conversations with Open Door, and if there was a miscommunication, I feel bad about that. We went to the Open Door Methodist Church to talk about being good neighbors in the event we are neighbors, and the Open Door Methodist Church told us that they were the owners of Patterson Circle. That was news to us because we had been to the county planning department who told us it was a county road, and we'd been to the tax assessor's office who told us it was a county road. But we said to the Open Door Methodist Church that if they did own the property and showed us, we'd be happy to work something out. If we couldn't work something out, there's plenty of asphalt to have other means of access or egress. We've been waiting, as you may confirm for you guys to just show us that you own it or don't own it, in which case we can go ahead and work something out.
We've sent you the information on who to contact at the assessor's office.
And I contacted that person who confirmed it was a county road.
You have not found the
Microphone.
right deeds. Yeah, we'll talk, it's a side
Yeah, I think
conversation.
we can work this out. If you own the road, we'll work something out. If you don't own the road, we'll work something out. We're just trying to get the facts. The county and the tax assessor have said it's a county road. If it's not, that's fine
A portion
too.
of it is the county road.
Yeah, all we're trying to do
And
is
then the
get
other
the facts.
portion belongs to the church.
All we're trying to do is get the facts, and then
The
we're
portion
sure
of the
we...
school district wants paid to the church to utilize at one
All we
time.
want to do is get the facts, and then we want to be good neighbors and work it out.
Pastor Brian's due back in town later this week. We'll set up a meeting, and if you don't have all the facts at that point, we'll direct you to.
That would be great.
I'm also searching for some facts. You said that this meeting took place after several years of discussion. I'm wondering if this meeting took place tonight and if this rush is taking place because the law that gives you privilege for that land might expire June the 30th.
I don't think so. Prop 39, no? No, I don't think so.
You know nothing about that?
No, nothing. I don't think so.
Okay, fine.
I think you're probably addressing the surplus property laws, which may expire on June 30th, which gives priority to charter schools. But when asked before about why the district is not going through the surplus property process, my reason was different. We're doing this under Proposition 39, so it has nothing to do with the priority given to charters under the expiration that may expire on June 30th.
Okay. Are you aware that in Washington State, the Supreme Court has declared the charter schools not public schools?
Yes, they did, and the California Supreme Court has looked at California schools and determined that they are part of the public school system. So totally different basis in regard to the invalidation of charter schools up in Washington State.
Okay, so for the public to know, I've talked to our assemblyman, I've talked to our congressman. They say that in the near future, when they are fully vested, then our laws will probably change too. They won't change while our governor's the same, et cetera, et cetera. I want us to realize that what we're talking about with Adams Crest is forever. It's forever. If this property's gone, the most valuable asset that the school district owns will be gone forever. If, I'm agreeing with Ms. Block now, if they haven't done a good job, if the district hasn't done a good job, and it's before Lisa LeBlanc was here, it's time to engage in communication with different communities who might be more welcoming than this community. This community is not being a NIMBY community. This community is seeing a redundancy. And it seems to me that if you went to Wilson, and if you went to Steve, and if you went to Harmon Mills, and another half dozen closed properties, and took your money there, it would be much more appreciated.
Yes.
And much more welcome. I cannot believe that this is the only property that's been offered to you. If that's so, then I'm very disappointed in my school board. And how many people here vote? I'll send you in November.
Both Wilson and Steve are operating school sites. And the Harmon Knoll property, our Board of Education is going to be potentially utilizing that for one of our own schools that have, this is not coming, I need to get away from this, for Highland School ultimately that potentially would be moved to that site. So we do not have any other vacant sites to be able to.
Invest in the schools that are there.
Thank you.
I live a block away. I grew up in this community. I'm just as much a part of this community as everyone else in this room. Like all parents, it's my job to make the best decisions for the needs of my kids and my family. I recognize that these decisions are sometimes very hard, and that reasonable people can disagree sit with their children, for many married and personal reasons. Adams has been a school in the past and will continue to be a school. It was a middle school with more students than Caliber has at its peak. It's a shame and embarrassment that it is laying empty and derelict this long, while hundreds of students languish in cramped, substandard conditions. Caliber will pay to reconstruct the currently seismically unsafe building at its own expense. The district has no plans or funds to reconstruct the site itself. This will be a huge benefit to 800 district students from our community and to all those who support equal access to quality education. Caliber's families are mainly from Richmond and the surrounding neighborhood here. Whether you like it or not, Caliber's families are part of this community and this district. Caliber is fully enrolled with a long waiting list and has no impact on existing schools in terms of enrollment. Caliber cares deeply about taking care of its neighbor relations in its current temporary location and will continue to do so throughout this process. The district is obligated by state law to provide facilities for charters. It's simply doing its job and working with Caliber to move to a permanent home. As to funding, district funds belong to all children in this district, all of them. They don't belong to the district itself, only to be used for certain chosen students. Caliber students are entitled to their share of this funding as much as any other student in this community. Caliber is doing an amazing job educating its students, all of its students. It has a higher percentage of special ed students than the district as a whole. It is committed to their success. Its staff is so dedicated and hardworking, just like those here at Mira Vista. Mr. Beller and his team give selflessly of their time and resources because they care about the students in this community. It's as simple as that. Why do you think Caliber's enrollment is bursting at the seams? It's because there's a deep need for additional choices in this district. To sit here in self-righteous judgment, shouting down and laughing at anyone who disagrees is so sad and unproductive. That anyone would say to 800 thriving children and their families that they can no longer receive the excellent education they're currently receiving is unthinkable. At the end of the day, this doesn't have to be a zero-sum conversation. We are all families who care deeply about our children. I would ask that at the very least we respect one another's intensely personal decisions. Where our children attend school is one such personal decision. Thank you.
Sorry. Didn't your kids used to go to school here?
Yes, they did.
I'm talking to you. Did your kids not go to school here? I just have a question. I just have a really simple question.
I am not judging you.
I'm not judging you. I'm asking you a very specific question. I'm asking you a question. Answer the question.
You have to.
Answer the freaking question. All right, I'll answer the question. She was president of our PTA. She was co-president with her sister of our PTA while she was planning to bring her kids to Caliber. While she was part of the planning committee for Caliber. Okay? So don't.
So that's not true.
Oh my God!
When I was at this school, I did my very, very best to make it work for our family, including being a part of the PTA, which, as everyone who's ever been a part of the PTA knows, is the most thankless job in the world, especially for the president. And
Hey, can Amy finish
I
what
was
she's
very
saying,
happy.
please?
No, I don't think I can.
I think she.
You had your minute.
I think she knows she knew this.
No, she didn't. Please,
Let her
So,
talk. I want to
did
hear it.
that,
heard her talk.
And unfortunately, I had to make a different choice for my family. There was no grooming, planning. I have nothing to do with Caliber except
talk to any of those people, and they can, and they will, if they're being honest, they will
Let's
tell you
finish
for
up the
sure,
questions,
so
please.
that I never even mentioned you have it.
Oh my God. You're lying. You're lying.
Okay, I'm so glad we're up to plate.
That's on the last question on that side.
Now, the question I would like to ask is a pretty straightforward, fair and square kind of thing. When I was a kid, I grew up in these neighborhoods. I used to live right here by the gate off of Arlington, come back here to school. This facility is pretty much the same. The question I would like to direct, if you guys get the property down here at the harbor, that's going to require a demo job. It's probably going to run you about $175,000 to $200,000. Okay. Now the question is, has your people and district people done any type of a study and a survey of the physical land itself? I don't know how much you know about the new neighborhood and trying to move it, but you go over here behind the Arlington, and you got Wildcat Canyon. Also, where we are here, we call it the Wildcat Canyon Fault. Now, the question would be, this is a very volatile area over on this side with regards to earthquakes. So the question, just straight ahead, I'd like to ask you, if you do acquisition this property, what I'm concerned about is the lives of kids, adults, the whole nine. What type of physical structure do you envision building there? Are we just talking ground level, two-story? That's what I'd like to know. Thank you.
So as Ron pointed out from the beginning, and I think I've said as well, we don't know until we do those studies. So to answer your question directly, yes, there will be studies of exactly those sorts of things. And we will not move forward with a building until the seismic engineers, traffic engineers, structural engineers have verified that they believe it is up to code and safe.
Hi, my name is Mitchell Evan. I'm a parent here at Mira Vista. I live down the street. I do believe that every parent here wants something good for their child. I like to think that the district is doing what they have to do. I've heard some other questions raised. We'll hopefully find, if there's any truth to that, we'll find out over time. Let's all pay attention to those questions. I've heard people say, thank you. I really do believe, I don't doubt at all that folks who have spoken about their own kids at Caliber are doing the right thing for their kids. I haven't heard those parents say what they're doing for their community. And I don't blame you. I think that's a fair choice. That is a fair choice. You want to choose your child over the community, or you believe that it doesn't hurt the community, that's all fine. So I really wanted to direct my question to you, Mr. Belvin, where you said that you believe in school choice. You've heard a lot of people here say that they believe that school choice harms the community. I believe that you have a different view of why you believe in school choice. I'd like to hear why you believe in school choice and what evidence would change your mind. Well, obviously it's a much longer conversation, and we've all been here for a while, but you're welcome to come and visit us or convene, and we can have a longer conversation about the pros and cons of charter schools or school choice. As I said earlier, wealthy kids, wealthy families have lots of choices. Disadvantaged kids have fewer choices. People who live in the hills might have different choices than people who live in the flats. I just believe that everyone should have the same choices. We're not creating a school that people have to go to. We're creating a school that people want to go to. We believe we are a community. We believe we're good for the community. We, work with the district whenever possible. We want all kids to thrive. We're not in competition with the district. As I said, we think there are some terrific district schools. There are some other district schools that are challenged. There are some terrific charter schools. There are charter schools that are challenged. As Ashley said, she's in a cohort with district schools. We do professional development with district schools. We train our people, with district and charter schools. We don't really think of district versus charter. We're all trying to figure out, without enough resources, how to build great schools. So,
Small business owner, and I've lived in this community now for almost 50 years. And I'm deeply involved in the whole community, which is not just Richmond, a part of, or Contra, or the county, but this is really a district that is comprised of 5 cities and community. I served on the school board for 13 years, and I'm really appalled at the short-sightedness of the current board, and I hope that they learn their lesson. In speaking to you, I want to talk about Adams first of all. It is not a good site. I experienced it as a parent, carpooling kids up to school. It is not easy for families to get their children here. And when they cannot come, as they do in our public schools, when they do not have transportation costs, they don't go to school, and the ADA is not earned. Likewise, when they miss classes, they don't learn. So you have on your hands a huge population of 800 kids, not just middle school kids, but starting from kindergarten. And their parents cannot get them here. So that's a very important thing. It surprises me that you can go ahead and purchase this property without even demonstrating your ability to purchase it. I know that as a small business person, when I go to the bank, it's very difficult nowadays to get money. Or when I work with a nonprofit that tries to refinance a loan, it's very difficult. And yet you are purchasing a property with no guarantee that you have the funds to develop it. Your estimates of $4 million or $5 million to either raise the site and remove the debris, or you cannot renovate those said buildings. They're so bad, you're wasting money. You may be able to use non-union work or sources and assistance from someone like Steve Chamberlain, so that you can build cheaper, but it's still not going to cost you only $15 million. So before you start looking at this gorgeous site on the hill that overlooks the whole Bay Area that nobody's using, that has all these opportunities, it is not a good site to develop for schools. So look elsewhere, okay? And just because a year ago you said, well, okay, we're going to lease this, all these things, you're progressively changing the story. Mr. Chamberlain, the Making Waves people have bought all of Hilltop out, most of Hilltop out. There's land there. You could buy private property and develop it much faster than the rigmarole that people have to go through with this seismically, this destructive site. So it's not a practical site. It's not going to serve all these kids. And you were jumping the gun. I just can't believe that you're talking about developing all these schools, adding the high school, getting a renewal on your charter, which caps you, and you're already looking for a permanent building, a school. You don't even know our community. You haven't even worked with the community. You don't even know what the business is or the others. We have struggled together to pull this district out of bankruptcy, to get all this money to build these schools, to win over the voters so that we can do the parcel taxes. You're just coming in and blithely thinking, this is it. Your style has to change, okay? And no matter what you say about parental choice, there's parental responsibility. I, as a school board member, was the parent of 30,000, 40,000 kids, not just a few kids, not just some better than others. So you can't say, okay, they have a choice. We have a responsibility. And those of us who don't have kids have a responsibility. And if you want to adapt to this community, you cannot do what you do in these other cities. This is a very unique community. We work very hard to put this together. And you plus the other big, well-heeled people are really dismantling this very quickly. Our populations will decline. We may have to close schools. We may have to sell the schools off. You're really taking advantage of us. And I don't think I think your conscience should rule you. But as a business person to a business person, You're really not doing it in the right order. You have to prove that you're gonna fund this construction and what's it gonna cost. You shouldn't just buy a piece of property and then say, okay, if you can't develop it, you sell it, you'll give it back. It doesn't work that way. We have worked together. We're not just a 100,000 population here in Richmond. We're a whole collective of cities, and we have developed this cohesiveness and working together. Please, if you really want to help us, you should be dealing with all the kids, not just your own design, okay? So slow down.
Agreement between Caliber and the district.
No.
And we anticipate that if there are mutual agreement, that we would have another public hearing. I'm not quite sure if that's going to be the next board meeting or the board meeting after that, to hear more public